Good evening, Stampers. My name is Juanette, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel, Juanette's Paper Crafts. I sell the products I feature in my video tutorials. Today, we are going to be making what I call animals in a pop-up pen. This is such a sweet card. I make the cards for the staff at work for their birthdays, and everybody signs it. This card is an 8.5 by 6, and I made the envelope out of cardstock. And this will be going to one of my coworkers who has a December birthday. So you see how it actually pops up. Then it actually can sit on your desk. And there's lots of fun little elements. I used multiple stamp sets from the annual catalog. I used Lily Pad Lake, Over the Moon, This Little Piggy, Animal Outing, Butterfly Gala, Best Catch, Beautiful Bouquet, and Welcome to the Team. And that's where the sentiment comes from. It lays down flat to go in your envelope. And those little pieces are adhered to the pen using a really strong acetate, which I will show you how to make it super strong. So again, I had Butterfly Gala, Animal Outing, This Little Piggy, Lily Pad Lake, Over the Moon, and a couple of other ones. So what you're going to do first is stamp whatever you want to be popping up out of your pen. And I'm just going to show you a few of the things. These are little pigs from This Little Piggy, and I ended up only using the one on the right-hand side. I stamped them with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And then I'm coloring them with some of our alcohol markers, which are called blenders. This is Petal Pink. And this is just very quick coloring. I didn't do any special shading or anything like that. I do end up cutting off the sentiment and only using the pig. And I ended up using the pig on the right, not the one on the left. I'll save the one on the left for another project. So you can color your images any way you want and with whatever kind of markers you want. You could even use watercolors or watercolor pencils. And then I came in with the light Flirty Flamingo to put little cheeks, little blush cheeks on him or her. And then this is Granny Apple Green, which I'm laying down for just a little bit of grass. Then on many of the animals, there are die cuts. So once I colored them all, I die cut them using the coordinating dies. For the Butterfly, I had the punch to go with Butterfly Gala, and I was able to punch it out. Now you can see I'm also punching out some white cardstock, and that's because, as you can see, the alcohol markers bleed through. So I decided to double layer the animals so that you wouldn't be able to see that coloring when you look at the back of the card. Now for the ones that don't have a die cut, I just glued a second piece of cardstock onto the back of them and then fussy cut them out. The paper I used was from Perennial Essence. Isn't that a beautiful cardstock? And I cut out the grass using Best Catch and Lily Pad Lake. They both have little grass die cuts. And again, I added white cardstock to the back because it's a double-sided paper. Now for the flowers, I used Beautiful Bouquet, and I stamped those several times and cut them out. The ink I used was Granny Apple Green, Highland Heather, and Daffodil Delight. Then the sentiment comes from Welcome to the Team, and it's Happy Birthday from all of us. So to make the acetate a little bit stronger, what I did is I took 2 pieces and added double-sided tape, red tape to them, stuck each one on top of each other, so then it's double layer with the double-sided tape, and then cut them to 1/4-inch strips. Now the nice thing about this card is you can use your scraps to make it, and we all have tons of scraps, don't we? So you are going to need 2 pieces of 1/2 inch by 7 inch thick white cardstock, and you're going to score on both sides at 1/2 inch, and then fold and burnish those. Then you're going to need 8 pieces of 1/2 inch by 6 inches. You will need 8 strips of 1/2 inch by 2 inches, again white, and then you're going to need 4 pieces of 1 inch by 3 1/4, and you're going to score down the middle, which is 1/2 inch, and fold it over. Those are going to be your hinges or your side post of your fence. So what I've done here is I've laid my laminated grid down from my Stamparatus on my work surface, lining up the edge with those grid marks, applied wet glue to the inside, and then took 4 of the 1/2 inch by 6 inches and adhered them, lining that up as best as I could with the grid mark. So you can see I left one little square at the top. Then I end up skipping a square. Then add the next fence post or fence railing. What is that called? Put in the comments section what that is called. And then I adhered the last one. Again, lining them up as best as I could. So then when that dries a little bit, you're going to turn it over and you're going to apply liquid glue to the other side, then turn it back over and lay that piece on one of the other hinges. Again, trying to line up your posts so that they're nice and even. So that is either the front or the back of our pin. Then you are going to take 4 of the smaller pieces of white cardstock, and those are a 1/2 inch by 2 inches. You're going to apply liquid glue on the other side of that hinge. Again, lining up your grid. This is going to be the side of the pin. And you're going to butt those right up against the score line there. And then you can actually fold it over and make sure that they all line up evenly. So now you have the front and one side. So then you're going to apply wet glue again to the top of those small pieces, and you're going to adhere those to one of the other hinges. Again, lining it up on your grid paper. Now, as you can see, I think I'm a little bit high on the right side with that, but I do correct that here. So that's why it's really nice to have that grid paper. And again, fold it over and make sure everything aligns up. You could put some ink blending on these with a sponge or a blending brush if you wanted to distress it a little bit. Now you're going to take the last 4 smaller pieces of 1/2 inch by 2 inches to make the other side of the pin. Again, just line them up. And adhere them down. It's actually pretty straightforward. The nice thing is the liquid glue gives you a little bit of time to maneuver them if they're not quite straight. So now we have both sides and the back. So you're just going to repeat the same thing, a little bit of glue on the outside. Have the last fence post laid down, lining it up. So now we're going to put the 2 pieces that become a place for you to adhere some of the animals. So these are the 7 by 1/2 inch and they're scored on both sides a 1/2 inch. And I just took a little wedge off of both ends there, and that will make it easier for them to be glued down on the inside. So you're going to take one of them, apply some liquid glue to that one side there, like you see, and you're going to glue it to the second post up against the score line there to the left, and making sure that it lines up well. Now you're going to take your other one, and in a little bit you're going to see that I actually will turn this around. It is supposed to be turned to the other side so that you have about a 1/4 inch opening from the back of the fence. And you're going to be able to see that. See how it's butted up against to the fence? So I needed to remove it and turn it around so that you have a little like 1/4 inch gap there. And you can see now where it does stick out a little bit so that there is space in between. So then you're going to add liquid glue to the other side and adhere it to that second fence post. And I'm not sure why, but this one gave me a little bit of problem. It kept coming off, and I'm not quite sure why. But again, thank goodness for liquid glue. I think one of the things is when you are recording a tutorial, you're trying to hurry because you want your video to not run so long. So you get in a hurry and you don't let things dry and you're rushed, but there's always a way to fix it. So I eventually get it glued down there. And then just adhere the other inside panel to that side fence. So now we're going to complete the front of the pen, and you can see you've got a nice spacing in between there so that your pop-ups will show well. So you're taking your last 4 pieces of white cardstock. You're going to place liquid glue right along the edge there, as you can see. And line them up using your grid line. I think in one of my next tutorials, I want to show you the cards that I make for my patients that I deliver. Remember, I'm a labor and delivery nurse, and when I've bonded with a patient and had her labor with me all day long, I like to make them a card, a congratulations card. So you see how you fold it over and line everything up. It is a little fiddly, as you can see that one fence post does not want to stay straight, but eventually it does. I just love doing this stuff. It is so much fun and it's relaxing. It's a de-stressor. I cannot wait to get home so that I can craft. Now you can see that table there is in my apartment in California. when you see me finishing the card, you're going to see my glass mat, which means I'm back in Arizona. So again, just a little bit of liquid glue there to adhere the complete pen together. And you'll see in a little bit that it will lay down nice and flat once I get everything lined up and adhered correctly. And look how perfectly it stands up. See, it folds down nicely. And those slats are all even with each other. Yippee! Okay, now I'm in Arizona. So our card needs to be not more than 8.5 by 6 inches. So I need to make sure that my little animals don't go higher than 6 inches. So I line up my pen on my grid mark. I've adhered that acetate to the back of that little cow using double-sided tape. And I'm going to make sure that it is no higher than 6 inches. And I'm going to just stick her to the back of that top fence post. Now, you can see I am trying to trim off a little bit of the acetate because it's a little bit too long. However, I realize there is so much going on with this card. Once I'm done, you don't even notice it. So if it does hang down just a little bit for you, don't worry about it. So now all my other elements need to go within that area of the card. Here's the hippopotamus, and I end up putting her on the left-hand side. And then I am not going to show you the rest of the decorating. It is just using all those elements that I had cut out and colored. They just go on acetate and they go on different levels of the card. And as you can see, here they are. Oh my gosh, I just love it. It stands up beautifully. Some of those pieces were from a paper pumpkin kit that we had gotten, the camellias. So thank you so much for joining me. If you would like any of these products, please visit me at JuanetteHewitt.stampinup.net. And thank you for joining me. Good night.